Good morning and welcome to our 2021 Santa Parade participant meeting. Thanks so much for viewing in this broadcast. We realize it's a little bit different than what we normally do. We'd love to have you all together in a room to talk about Santa Parade, but unfortunately restrictions won't allow us to do that this year. But I'm very excited to say that Sergeant Steve Koopman has joined us from the Kingston Police. And I'd also like to introduce you to Sandy Griffiths, who is new to downtown Kingston, and she will be one of the in-charge people at our parade this year, and look for her to be the really in-charge person at next year's parade. So just want to give you a quick overview. We realize that a lot of the floats this year are new to the parade, which means that you may or may not have ever seen the staging area or know the exact route of the parade. So I'm going to show you a map that I realize on a screen will be a bit challenging for you to see, but we will send out this information in an email to all participants so that you're well aware exactly what the route is and how to get to the staging area. So the easiest way to get to the staging area is off Lappin's Lane. If you're not familiar with Lappin's Lane, it runs that's south off of John Counter Boulevard. So the easiest way to access it is either from Division Street to John Counter or from Sir John A. Macdonald Boulevard, north or south to John Counter. You will turn south on Lappin's Lane, follow Lappin's Lane all the way down until you get to a gated entrance. So that's the gated entrance for the former Alcan, former Novelis, and it's now modern Niagara facility. There will be someone at that gate who is aware of Santa Parade participants arriving on Saturday for the parade, and they will let you through that gate. From there, we will have signage posted in the road, but what you will do is take a right turn followed by a left turn, and you go straight down that road until you come to a Y in the road where there will be a parade marshal there. The parade marshal will have all the information about what section of the parade you are in. You will receive that information ahead of time, but just in case you forgot or not sure where to go, there will be a parade marshal to meet you at that corner. So we'll go to the next map. This is a blow up of this area. Once you arrive at the Y, which is at the top end of the staging area, the parade marshal will tell you which direction to go. We will have 5 sections this year, as we normally do. I haven't put numbers or letters on them just because we haven't 100% secured which is which, but basically the sections will be along the road in front of Innovation Park, along the road to the side of the parking lot, and then 3 sections in the middle. So the best thing to do is to follow the parade marshal's instructions. If you are dropping somebody off, she will also give you, and I'm quite sure it's a she this year, she will also give you directions as to how to drop off and how to exit out to Princess Street quickly and efficiently. There is no space, and I'll emphasize this again, no space whatsoever for anybody to park a vehicle other than a parade float in the staging area after the parade leaves. So if you are dropping somebody off, you must keep going and exit out. You cannot leave cars anywhere in the staging area. And that's not just because we don't want you to leave them there. It's for security reasons. This whole area will be completely sealed off and locked once the parade leaves, and you won't be able to get back in. So if you're new to the parade, take note, you must leave people off and exit. There is another option, however, and one that's quite easy. There is a Shoppers Drug Mart Plaza right here. The Kingston Center is to the south of Princess Street. Please feel free to safely park there and walk in. You will be able to walk in this way and through a gate, and that will be obvious as well. We'll have signage there, and come into the parade staging area that way. That way you don't have to worry about dropping off, parking, and coming back. Just think about parking at one of those areas and walking right in. When the parade is ready to go, Section A will be the closest to the beginning of the parade. It will make its way down here, and Sergeant Koopman will tell you a little bit more about how this will work in terms of the roads being closed and police presence and that sort of thing. But it's as simple as following the leader. We will go out here and all the way down Princess Street. Sections B, C, D, and E will follow in place, followed by, of course, at the very end, Mr. and Mrs. Claus. You will be able to see them as you exit the parade staging area. You can wave to Santa on your way out to make sure he's there, but he's promised me he will. So I think that's all about the staging area. If you've not been in the parade before, the route is exactly the same as every other year. We start obviously up here at Innovation Park. The road is closed as we go down Princess Street, and we continue all the way down until you get to the bottom of Ontario. So at Ontario and Princess is the end of the parade, and we'll talk a little bit later about what happens when you get to that corner. But basically, note that you will turn off onto Ontario Street to the right, go as far as you can, and if people are picking up participants, we suggest that they meet you maybe at Empire Life, a little further along towards some of the apartment buildings down on Ontario Street, just to clear that traffic away. The other thing that happens at the end of the parade is when Santa makes that turn onto Ontario Street, he then will turn up Market Street and get off of his float, where we will have the official tree lighting ceremony. This year, Mr. and Mrs. Claus, along with His Worship the Mayor, will be officially lighting the tree following the parade. Okay, so maybe can I pass it over to you, Steve, to talk a little bit about safety and logistics of the parade?
Yeah, thank you, Jan. Just unmuting there. So this is my first full year with it. I simply assisted Sergeant Craig McFarlane, who's since retired from the 2019 parade. So Jan, I look to you with your experience as well, if you feel that there's any gaps with that. But at the end of the day, what we do from a Kingston Police perspective is we are responsible for obviously the closure of the roads and the maintaining of the safety, not only of the participants in the parade, but obviously the pedestrians and any citizens that are going to be watching that. We will see road closures pretty much from Princess and Sir John A, obviously a little west of where the parade will start at the Novelis, and then going eastbound down Princess. So we have a combination of both paid duty Kingston Police officers, our Kingston Police community volunteers, and we have been able to re-implement assistance from St. Lawrence College Police Foundation students as well. So long as there is a police officer at a point duty, then we can assign the volunteers and the students to assist us and be directed at, again, at our authority. The points to remember, and Jan and I haven't had the opportunity to speak in advance of today's meeting, so if there are any small errors, then Jan will certainly let me know. We normally have 3 emergency access points we just call EAPs. They will be at Princess and Macdonell, Princess and Barrie, and Princess and King. Jan, does that still sound correct to you from what we've done in the past?
Yes, that's great.
Great. So what that means is we will still have barriers there, and those that are watching the parade can still set up, but officers know, and they will instruct any observers that that would allow predominantly usually an ambulance, so frontline paramedic services, but also Kingston Fire and Rescue as well, to have quick availability to get through the parade if need be due to emergencies or priority 1 calls for service. So just be aware of that. Princess Macdonell, Princess and Barrie, and Princess and King. If that is coming through, then officers and volunteers will quickly let people know to get off the street. We will open up the barricades, allow them to come through. There will be a stopgap, obviously, in the parade if that's required as well. And then we carry on from that. Again, we'll continue to have discussions, but usually we are bagging either meters, and then we are looking at doing the courtesy tows prior to the event occurring. We have a briefing time from a Kingston Police perspective here at the station at 3 p.m. We make sure that everyone's understanding of their roles, and then we ask them to be out by 4 p.m. at the latest before the 5 p.m. start for the parade. The courtesy tows are usually done by Ward's Towing, and are they still going to 279 Wellington Street, Jan, to your knowledge, or is there a different location this year?
That's a good question. I will find out that information and include it in the email that we send to all participants. But yes, we will be putting signage on Friday afternoon all the way up to the top of Princess Street that lets everybody know at meters and on poles that there's no parking after, I believe it's 3 p.m. on Saturday.
That's great. Thank you. And then If we ever have a missing child or anything to that effect, then please come see a Kingston police officer or a volunteer. They will have radios. And if you even see a St. Lawrence College student, they will probably be marked in vests or something to that effect. They can relay that information to one of us as well. But make sure that that's brought to an officer's attention. We bring that over our radio system so that all officers, and there should be roughly 19 to 20 officers working for the parade, will be aware of that, to where to look for the child, but that will also be put over to our communications as well for the totality of the city. We normally operate on a separate channel for the parade that's different from our uniform patrol that will doing regular calls for service, but we can quickly have our comm staff relay that information over to patrol officers as well. We obviously ask those that are involved in the parade to make sure and respect the gaps that are needed, so for safety purposes, but also not to get too far away. So we want to strike that fine balance of keeping it concise, that we don't see big gaps, but at the same time, we want to be careful and cognizant not to be running into the back of another float, or as we know, we have pedestrians that are involved on the parade route as well. So just be conscious of that. The end of the day, take direction from the officers. And we also ask that anyone that are on any motorized vehicles, whether that is a traditional vehicle, a sedan, a truck, a commercial motor vehicle, or something like an ATV, to respect all rules of the road still, Highway Traffic Act, and any off-road vehicles too. So obviously the traffic lights you don't have to worry about that. We are proceeding through. We have control of that. So there's no concern there, but just take the direction of the officers when that occurs. Once the parade disperses, obviously there's usually a small little bit of chaos in and around Brock Street and Ontario Street. Please try and pull over to the side as much as you can from a float perspective or when picking people up. Sometimes we see a little bit of a log jam near the end of the parade. It's easy to almost get into the formality of the parade. It's more when the end of it occurs that we see a little bit of sometimes either chaos or confusion. We want to try and make sure that we maintain that traffic flow and the safety of all pedestrians as well. We've seen it where sometimes people are literally just walking down the street, even though it's now an open thoroughfare for regular motor vehicle traffic. Jan, was there anything else that you felt was important that you wanted me to point out?
The only other thing I would say is I've noticed that sometimes people forget that they are on a major street, so that when they turn onto Brock Street and let's say they've had children on their float, the children are getting off on both sides of the float. So just be very aware that do not let people get off into a traffic lane from your float. Please make sure they get off onto the sidewalk. I've seen that happen many times. And especially children are often dressed in dark winter clothing. It's very hard to see them. So just extra careful this year, as always, but extra careful.
That's great. Yeah, no, it's a good point. Thank you very much. And I think that's it, unless there's any other points we want to bring forward. And we're just going to continue to speak some logistics in regards to not only our numbers, but just the final layout. But that'll be done more behind the scenes.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Steve. So I'll move on to a few more things that have to do with the floats and with safety. So obviously it's a nighttime parade, and I don't think we can say often enough, the more lights, the better. But just make sure before you arrive that you've checked all of your lights, that everything is working, that there isn't a short circuit or lights missing in your strands. Music is fantastic. And of course, we want holiday themed music. Make sure you have enough gas. I know that sounds simple and easy, but just check before you leave home that the car is full or the truck is full. And if you are a truck that's pulling a flatbed, consider decorating the truck bed, truck cab as well. So lights, Christmas theme, all that sort of thing really helps to make your float look even more fantastic in the nighttime. We will have safety sheets that will be distributed by the parade marshals. So every section has 2 parade marshals. They will be going around and checking that if you have a generator on board, that you have a fire extinguisher as well, that there's no exposed wiring, that all of your hitches are chained, that if people are sitting on your float, that they are secure on your float. We are asking this year for COVID precautions, that nothing be handed out or given away, even if you're walking in the parade. It's too close contact, and we're trying to limit close contact as much as possible. So I know in the past, organizations have given out candy canes and other things, but we are asking you not to do that this year. We appreciate the thought, but let's save it for next year. When you're in the staging area, there are obviously Kingston Police, if they are there and have something to say, listen to them, as Steve said, but parade marshals are in charge. So if a parade marshal says that's where you go, that's where you go. So please understand that it takes a lot of organization, and this year it's been a very small amount of time, but to get the floats in the order that work best for the parade. We've taken everybody's requests into consideration, so please respect what the parade marshals have to say. There will be 4 porta potties available on site. In years past, we've been able to use inside the Novelis building, but that's not available to us this year because of COVID restrictions. So we will have 4 porta potties there. Please try to do what you need to do before you leave home, but they will be available there during the time that we are staging. The staging site will be open at 1:30 in the afternoon. We ask that if you are doing any decorating or assembling of your float, please try to arrive by about 2. If you are not, 3:30 p.m. is a good time to arrive. Remember that at 4 o'clock, we want everybody in the staging area. We realize that if it's a cold day, and so far the forecast isn't looking too bad, that is time to stand outside. But please remember that it does take time for everybody to be organized and ready to go promptly at 5 o'clock, which is when the town crier will be ringing his bell and ready to go. So make sure you're there. Kojiko, I don't know if they're called Your TV now, but anyway, Kojiko is doing a broadcast of the parade, which is wonderful news because we realize that some people won't be able to come out and watch this year. They will be positioning their cameras approximately Princess at University. So consider just slowing your pace a little tiny bit so that they're able to broadcast you as you go by. Unfortunately, we will not be judging parade floats this year. We weren't comfortable with putting 6 or 8 or 10 judges together in a close together environment, people who don't know each other. So we'll get back to judging next year, but still we'll remember what you did this year and we'll let the judges know for next year if you come back. As we talked about, unless a special arrangement has been made, and that would mean contacting us in lots of time, when you get to the bottom of Princess Street, turn right. Turn right and go along Ontario Street to unload, or turn up Brock Street to unload. Market Street will not be available. The best bet, as far as I'm concerned, and Steve, I don't know what you would say, but I think Ontario Street as far out as you can. The street is a bit wider, there's more space down there, and there's parking available in the Empire parking lot, for example. On Saturdays, it's free. Let's see, don't forget to dress warmly. I know that may seem obvious, but it's an important thing to remember. Let's see what else. Oh, Santa's letters. So Canada Post will not be picking up letters this year. Again, it's a close contact issue. However, on Brock Street, next to the Zamboni hut, we will be creating, and it will be ready for Saturday, a Santa's Village where people will be able to take photos with, what do I call them?
Like a Santa stand-in.
A Santa stand-in, yes. A Santa who will be there 24 hours. Along with that will be a post office, and Santa will be collecting the letters, a post box. Santa will be collecting letters from that post box. So if you find that people have given you letters or people on the float have them, there's that option to drop off the letters in the post box. And as I mentioned, the official tree lighting ceremony will be immediately following the parade in Market Square. And finally, what we think is one of the most important things, do remember that there is only one Santa, and he rides at the back of the parade in his float with Mrs. Claus. So no Santas on your floats, please and thank you. And also a reminder, don't forget to pay your fee. If you haven't, please contact our office. We'd be delighted if we had them all in and accounted for by the time the parade begins on Saturday. I think that's it for me. Have you got anything else to add, Steve?
Just, I think one point, Jan, just to clarify from when we did it in 2019, obviously those that will be at the front of the parade are just going to be following the lead Kingston Police vehicle anyways. But when we do pull out from Novelis, we are actually going eastbound in the westbound lanes. And in 2019, we stayed in those westbound lanes until Princess and Regent Street, like near the Harveys. Are we continuing with that from 2 years ago?
Yes, I think that's a great plan. We will have the fencing installed as we have. Oh, what happened? Are you still there, Steve?
Yep, I am.
Oh, okay. Our screen just went dead. So we will have the fencing installed along the Novelis property, as we have had in the past. So it kind of keeps the crowd in the right section along there. But yes, that sounds good.
So we'll continue with that. Just for those that are operating the parade, especially if it may be your first time operating it, just be conscious that that's usually a tight turning point coming out of Novelis onto Princess Street. Some of the parents with children want to see the parade at the earliest onset so they can leave earlier. That's the duty of ourselves as the officers and our volunteers to try and make sure that's clear. But just be aware of that turning out from Novelis onto Princess, of any pedestrians, and that you will just follow the cruiser. Obviously, don't worry, the streets will be shut down, but for a small period of time, you'll actually be driving the wrong way on Princess Street until we get roughly to Princess and Regent, where the island will end, and then it just simply becomes the one way from that point onwards.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much for participating. We would also like to remind everybody that we are not out of the COVID situation in Kingston. We would greatly appreciate if parade participants took all precautions. We will be wearing masks. We will be having hand sanitizer available at many locations in the staging area. And we greatly encourage you to do both of those things throughout the parade time. Let's keep it a safe parade and a happy parade. Great. Thanks so much, Steve. And to all the participants, don't hesitate to get in contact with the office if you have any questions about anything that we've said, and we look forward to seeing you Saturday afternoon. Thank you. Stop it. Oh, stop recording.